Welcome to Grumpily Ever After, our uncensored podcast where swoon-worthy meets eye-rolling as I, an avid reader and adventure romance author, chat with my grumpy husband who has inspired all of my book boyfriends written to date. Join us as we chat about books he'll never read, words he thinks are stupid, and all his grumbles in between. If nothing else, we hope to make you smile and brighten your day. At least a little. So, settle in and let's see where today's chapter takes us. What's that face for?
Because I said I'm ready. I'm not looking ready.
Welcome to this episode of Grumpily Ever After. I'm your co-host, Lindsey Pogue.
Host, Dennis.
And it is Friday. It is oppressively hot outside, very sweltering. How are you doing this fine day, my dear?
I'm a noodle. I am not crazy hot. I mean, we've experienced worse, but this is the hottest it's been in a little bit. So it's fresh. Doing all right.
You know me. I love the sunshine. I love being warm. I'll take it over being cold any day. But I feel like when I walked outside just to feed the fish, it was almost like I got sucker punched by the heat. It feels really thick and heavy for some reason. It's not humid, but it's not just hot. Like, I don't know. And it's also windy here, so you would think it would be a nice reprieve. And I guess it probably is, but yeah, it feels pretty warm.
Yeah, I think it's only maybe 90, 91.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the whole real feel number is.
And the UV rays too. The intensity on those really makes a big difference. So anyways, I was wondering, just because you were on the bike today, on your motorcycle on the way home in this heat, how was that?
It's probably been the hottest I've ever ridden in. And I felt myself driving faster because I want that wind to get in there. And it sucks because I'm wearing a full jacket type thing with no vent holes, even though it's
a big heavy helmet too.
Even though it's mesh, it's part of the biz. I'm not going to be one of those guys that just ride around with a skull cap and a t-shirt and sandals. I would rather, be uncomfortable for a little bit, wear the correct protective gear. So
yeah, safety first. Good job.
So yeah, it was good. There was quite a bit of traffic.
Yep.
Ducky.
I wonder, out of the people who listen to this, I wonder how many of them are old enough to actually know that reference.
Go ahead and raise your hands.
Dennis Gonzalez has raised his hand, or a hand. Sorry, I misread that. Well, speaking of the heat, I figured it was worth it to mention that I received some bookish goodies for my monthly members. Every quarter, I send them something fun and exciting that they're not expecting. Something that you can't just get my books, my bookshop, or at least not until they get it first. I don't know if you saw these, but the reader favorites a lot of like Gertie Gotcha and Apocalypse stuff because that's what I'm known for. And so I made these bumper stickers to send them. It says, "Welcome to the Apocalypse. It's a riot." I know you've seen the little stickers before, but I got these. And so I'm already getting messages and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's so exciting." So I thought that was fun. Speaking of the heat, guys, welcome to the Apocalypse. It's a riot.
What was the reference? You said something about Gertie?
Gertie got us. So in Skies of Fire, which is my most recent release in the Surviving Earth Chronicles, the one I did the big Kickstarter for.
Looks warm.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. It takes place in this post-apocalyptic world that's slightly different than ours, because this is the one where the asteroid 50 years prior had impact with the moon. So the Earth started moving off kilter a little bit, and slowly things have been like going crazy, and the Earth's been very angry. Gertie, or Gertrude, was the name of the asteroid, and so there's graffiti all over the place that says "Gertie got us" and stuff like that. And so it's a hashtag for the series and all that. So that's when I say Gertie got us, or Gertie, yeah, it's references the series. Good old Gertrude used to be a little girl's name. Now it's a bitch of an asteroid.
I think you've told me this before, but
Oh yeah, no, it's
short-term memory.
That's fine, man. You and I both. So anyways, I thought those were really fun. I've never made bumper stickers before. They seem to like them, so maybe I'll do it again.
So it'll end up on someone's Prius. Nice.
Right? Or Subaru. I feel like Subarus have a lot of stickers too. Is that just because we're in California? I don't know. Maybe that's
no shame. Just observations.
Okay, so today I thought it would be really fun to talk about my post-apocalyptic worlds that I create, because this heat really actually had me thinking about it. And then I got these bumper stickers and I was like, okay, I feel like the universe is nudging me in a certain direction here. So another reason why this was on the top of my mind is because I put in my calendar whenever I have books that are like their anniversary of their publication date. And this month I happen to have a few of them, and they're all post-apoc stories or dystopian, something with a weather-ravaged world or the world ending, something really pivotal having to do with Mother Nature and the earth changing. Okay. So I thought it would be fun to talk about them, but I know how much you hate the heat, and I know how much I hate being cold. And I write about this stuff all the time. So I thought it would be fun to kind of pick your brain about what your worst apocalypse is, and kind of talk about some of the different books that I've written and the worlds, not about the books in general, but just like about the worlds and how you feel about certain ones, because some of them feel pretty normal because they're more contemporary, but there's certain aspects to them I think you would be like, I would rather die. So I'm just interested to know what you think. But first, so in the spirit of book birthdays, I will just mention that so Earth and Ember is a book in my Forgotten Land series in which the world is created. Let's just say that it was on the same track, and then the Industrial Revolution hit, and for them, climate change happened immediately because of it as a result. And so fast forward 300 years, and what does the world look like? That is what the Forgotten Lands is. So it kind of stopped and shifted during the Victorian era, or the very end of the Victorian era. It's alternative history, but it also has a dystopian feel because, yes, they might live in the deserts of Arizona, but what does it look like if 300 years prior there was climate change? You know, that sort of thing. And so anyways, that's what the Forgotten Land is. And so that's the series. And so this is one of the books in the series. So happy birthday to Kaya and Luke. This is probably not probably on my top 5, 100%. This is the book that I think is the most beautiful book I've ever written. This is an all-time favorite. So I'm excited. I should know how old it is, but I don't. I'm going to say maybe 3 or 4 years old. Maybe more. I should look it up. But anyway, so yeah, that's this month. And then also in the same world is City of Ruin. And this is the same world, but a different series in that world. And this one more specifically this one takes place in England. And then this one takes place the same time, 300 years later. But obviously the climate is different than it would be in the deserts of, the United States. So that one takes place in a very dark city, reimagined London. So it's really cool. It's got like underground, people live underground, and there's old crumbling castles, and it's really cool. So
They got big rats.
Sure, they got big rats.
Dude.
I didn't write about a single rat, but we'll say that they did.
All right.
Actually, most of the story, it's referenced to be underground, but most of the story is not underground. That's just kind of where they lived for a really long time. But yeah, so we have 2 extremes. And that's why I thought it would be really fun, because as I was thinking about these different books that I've written and these different climates, and one of the things I'm known for is the weather ravaged worlds, and I always make Mother Nature probably the biggest villain in the story. I thought it would be fun for us to talk about them, and then you give me your thoughts. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So since it's very hot out, we're going to start with Dust and Shadow. So Dust and Shadow is the first book in that series. Okay. So this one, again, it's Victorian America. It has a Wild West feel to it because the civilization is in the desert, in the Arizona desert. And they live in a tiny little town, and water is scarce. They are ravaged by sandstorms. The heat is oppressive. Dust, just think of dust on your skin, sunburns, thirsty, chapped lips, all those things. Okay. So how do you feel about that?
I feel that if I were set in that time, I would be one of those like town to town salesmen for lube, because everything's dry.
Oh my gosh. And you'd be selling lube. What are you going to make your lube out of? Animal fat.
Spittoon collectings.
Ew.
No, real quick, I was trying to think of like, yeah, obviously I despise the heat, but there's so many different forms of heat. And a lot of people don't like the wind. I'm impartial. I don't, it's whatever. But if I'm getting constantly pelted by sandstorms, then yeah, I would not favor that. Pretty sure, yeah, that's probably the worst one. Just desert, heat, dry, sandstorms. Would probably get on a horse and keep riding until I'm in a different area. I don't know why they're sticking around.
Well, I mean, I can answer that for you. But anyways, then that brings up the next one, which was Skies of Fire, which we've also talked about, and we just talked about it a little bit. This is Texas summer. This is wildfires. This is volcanoes
Oh
and
my god.
sinkholes. How do you feel about that?
Sounds worse. Volcanoes.
Let's say that you're one of the people that isn't being swallowed up by lava. What does he say in Austin Powers? Dr. Evil goes, magma, or what does he say?
Yeah, he goes liquid magma.
Yeah, so
I think that one actually might be better. I would rather live in that one because they're both hot. They're both somewhat deserty. One's in the desert, the other one's in Texas, which is pretty dang close. Sinkholes.
it either eats you up or it doesn't.
It's not a weather thing, so it's really volcanoes, I guess, that I have to worry about. So it's like volcanoes, potential of dying from lava or getting pelted by sand constantly. So I think
I agree with that. I think one thing to keep in mind too, though, with the Skies of Fire is the fires everywhere, and that's something that we've had a lot of experience with. A lot of ash in the air, and the orange skies, and the masks and stuff like that too. So just keep that in mind. But yes, I agree. I would take that over. I mean, yeah, I don't want to be by sand either. That's why I gave them goggles and like special like wraps and stuff. But still, I don't. Then you want to put that on in the middle of like 110-degree weather.
Yeah, I mean, this book are they dealing with the scarcity of water as well?
They're dealing with essentially sulfur poisoned water. So it's not as bad. No, it's modern day. So they have ways to purify and or bleach, chlorine, whatever. I mean, there are ways around it. It's obviously not as convenient if you're on the run for your life, but it's not as bad as being 300 years after civilization ends and you're stuck in a desolate, waterless pocket of the Wild West that never saw past the mid 1800s. So yeah, it's a little different, right? It's a lot harder. The way they survive is by scavenging and essentially being innovative because they don't have all of the modern day stuff that we do.
Yeah, Skies of Fire, bring
it. Okay, that being said, another series that I wrote is the Savage North Chronicles, and it starts out as an apocalyptic series because book 1 is a virus spreads, society collapses, and this group of survivors essentially has to flee an Alaskan city, and they go into the wildlands of Alaska. It's the middle of winter. They're in blizzards. They don't have technology because, grids are down, that sort of thing. And people have some abilities. So you also have that to take into consideration. People can do horrible things. So there's just kind of a whole other element of survival to this one. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because the setting in this one is pure. It's all snow. It's blizzards. It's trying to stay warm, but also not using generators or not using heat so people can't see your chimneys because you're in hiding, right? You don't want people to see the smoke, stuff like that. So where does a survival situation like this rank on your I would never meter?
Between the last two, I would take that one on.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're saying I can't have a fire source, can't have generators, I can't have anything that attracts attention. So that just means skin to skin, body contact, warmth. Bring on the sandwich.
That's where your mind goes. All right. I want to say that this seems easier, but I honestly think I would take Dust and Shadow, take the desert.
Yeah, it's because you're a freak.
Yeah.
In any of those first two books, I would die. Like I wouldn't make it, not because of the survival, but because my body reacts to heat in a certain way, and I would just.
No, I totally understand. That's why this is kind of fun, because I already pretty much know what you're going to pick, but when we're done going through the books, I want to, we'll talk more about it. Okay, so this is further down the sequence in the book series. Okay, so this is book 3. This is Midnight Sun. This is a heifer is what it is. And this one takes place like spring in Canada. The living conditions aren't horrible by any means. However, after the rainy season in Canada, they have a bit of a mosquito issue. To the point where, and there's even an entire chapter in here, to the point where there's black clouds of them.
Wow.
So I would like to know where this rates in your survival scale and what you could cope with and what you couldn't, not because of the landscape, but because of Mother Nature in general and the little creatures that.
Is there shelter, or are they on the move?
In this specific scene in this book, they are not by shelter. They have to flee for shelter, and they have to do everything they can. And even when they get to shelter, I mean, they're still kind of screwed, because unless you're in a friggin' lockbox, there's only, so much mosquitoes. But in general, yes, let's just say you can lock yourself in your car and close your vents and hope that they don't come inside. Or you can close yourself in a house and hope that there's not like a hole somewhere, or that they don't desperately want to get in. I'm not saying that they're vicious and have they're single-minded and trying to kill you, but I'm saying that given what happens to you when you get bitten by a mosquito, would you risk it with an entire swarm that potentially could happen multiple times a day or multiple days in a row, depending on the season and where you are?
For people that don't know, hasn't been diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I have some type of allergic reaction to mosquito bites. I get a single bite and that bite swells up to a golf ball to
tennis ball,
depending where it is. Or I think that I would pick that one, the better climate, and roll the dice with the mosquitoes. I'm pretty sure when they get pretty bad, or maybe year round, I would just be wearing, head to toe coverage, and I would have like one of those, what are they called? Ghillie suit of just straight citronella leaves all over my body.
Dress of citronella leaves. I love it.
All right. So I would just dress for the occasion. It would be uncomfortable, but it is what it is. And at least it's something to ward off the mosquitoes. And I'm somewhat comfortable with the pretty neutral climate.
Yeah. I honestly didn't know what you would pick, so that's why I wanted to throw that in there.
I think there's natural ways to combat it. If it was really that bad, I can just load myself up with lemongrass and, be covered head to toe in foliage.
Submerge yourself in water for 24 hours.
Yeah, but how would I breathe? And then
it would still get your head.
I'd use a bamboo straw, and then it would go down the straw, and I'd be choking on skeeters.
Yeah. They have a way of finding you, and they have a way of, and it's not even just mosquitoes. Remember, like I feel like it's pretty much anything, any sort of bug bite you get, you have a very adverse reaction to.
Yeah, we were down in New Orleans a few weeks ago, and I didn't see a single mosquito, but there were these tiny little gnat-looking things. And according to our nephew, he said that they were chiggers, but I don't think they were. But either way, tiny little gnat size of a bug left freaking welts. I got bit 18 times, and everyone else was like, I got like 2.
Yeah, and it's not an exaggeration when we say that they swell up very large. It's especially when they're on your face, it's worrisome, because it doesn't look good. Not in a cosmetic way, but I mean as in like it looks scary, like it's gonna like go into your eye, or that something bad could happen.
It's not the tumor.
It's not the tumor.
I got so many allergies. I swear I should be dead already. Who has this kind of reaction to just mosquito bites? Ridiculous.
Well, and even the sun you have reactions to, which is one of the reasons why the apocalypse idea of the, permanent heat, the permanent sun, it would kill you. Hence why you prefer to live in a blizzard.
Yep. Or be covered head to toe in citronella leaves.
That's fair. That's very fair. All right. So this one is also in the same series. This is the final book. This is Thea's book. And the only reason why I'm bringing this one up is because this one's more dystopian. This is the world that we were talking about earlier, but this is 10 years later. And so everything's more established. It's more normal. But she leaves Canada to go to California. And there's a scene when they drive through Tehama County and they happen to be in Red Bluff. And one of the characters has been there. It's the Red Bluff area. And refers to it, because it's all during summer, refers to it as the armpit of hell. How do you feel about that statement, having been there multiple times because I have family there?
Where did you get that? Calling it the armpit of hell?
Oh, I don't know. We've probably said it or I made it up. I don't know why.
I said it. Reading gets so hot, and so does Red Bluff. They're right close to each other. I mean, we're talking about 20-mile difference. But man, summer, we're talking my exposure to heat. You know, people from Death Valley or people from Arizona are just going to like scoff at that and be like, you don't know what you're talking about, man. Come over here for a little bit. No, thank you. Reading and Red Bluff alone in like peak season, we're talking like 100 and teens for weeks. And it just sounds disgusting. We've gone there maybe a few times. You know, we spend 3 days, 4 days there, and it's 100.
In the actual summer,
plus,
you mean?
Yeah, 100 plus each day, and it's just so grueling to me. It's just so uncomfortable.
That's a good word for it, grueling.
But like, I don't either you have it or you don't, right? People are used to it and they can acclimate and be like, yeah, you know, it's hot, it sucks, but I'm still out there grinding. I'm still out there working. And then you got people that are just going from your air-conditioned house to your air-conditioned car to your air-conditioned job. And the heat that you feel is just the gaps where you get in between those transitions. But like that, to me, I can make that happen, but that's not a way to live. I don't want to do that. That's not fun.
Like a vampire. The sun, I'm melting.
Yeah, you're just scurrying to the next source of air conditioning. That's too much. Forget that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, we're really lucky where we are. It gets really warm in the summer, but we only have, you know, a handful of days maybe that are in the hundreds. They're usually in the 80s and 90s. So, and where we live specifically, there's almost always a breeze. So that's really nice.
Yeah, not to get political, but the main driving force as to why California was so lavish and everyone wanted to come to California, the West Coast and whatnot, it's because we have the best weather. There's so many things to do here, and the only thing that's changed that is all just the laws and business and taxes and all that stuff. But
politics,
just climate wise, I don't think you can beat it. So.
Yeah. Well, that's what we pay for, right? At this point, we don't pay here. We don't pay to live here because it's easy to live here. That's for sure. Or inexpensive. Yeah. All right. So out of all of these, you're still going with the desert one, right?
I can't pick the unbroken one.
Oh, yeah. You can.
Well, I mean, that's kind of normal-ish temp, right? They were just passing by Red Bluff.
No. I mean the worst one.
The worst one's the first one.
Yeah. So dust and shadow. So the sandstorms, the oppressive heat, the lack of water. Yeah, the sunburnt skin.
After hearing all that you explained about the climate, and then seeing the lady on the cover makes me want to just like crawl in a mud hole.
Because she's in long sleeves and long pants.
She's wearing pants and covered up, and I'm like, ugh, dude, you're sweating.
At least her hair's blowing in the breeze.
Yeah, and she's wearing a vest. Ugh. Oh my God. She probably got cowgirl boots on, like mid-shin. Those feet must be damp.
Segueing into your actual worst apocalypse. Okay, that's just out of what I've written. And the ones that I brought up, there are other ones. But I thought those would kind of all were a little different or just fun to reference. So let's really think about this. Of all the different apocalypses, we have obviously the zombie apocalypse. We have some sort of natural disaster, which could be, you know, an asteroid hitting Earth. It could be prehistoric volcanoes erupting. It could be whatever, something, you know, cataclysmic for all of Earth. Could be nuclear war. It could be a virus. what are, of all the different things that you can think of, what do you think would be the worst scenario that you can think of? And I already think I know what you're going to say, but
The worst, I would say it would have to be a combination of things. People, I mean, humans need, bare essentials: food, water, breathable air. Touching on the first two, if it's natural causes of immense heat, that would be one of my factors with climate, like just being unbearably hot. Some type of nuclear fallout could potentially cause a rapid climate change, but it could also affect the ability to grow crops or sustain food, as well as damage water sources.
and let's take radiation into consideration. I don't even know if I would want to survive a nuclear something.
Yeah.
But if we had to, I definitely wouldn't pick nuclear. I'd probably pick zombies over nuclear.
Oh, but you're telling me what would I pick to favor, or just my work?
But just, I don't know, just anything. I don't know, just a conversation about the end of the world, I guess, really, because it's hard. I mean, obviously, you're like, oh, I want the world to end this way, but
yeah, no, I think out of all of them, it would be the easiest would be zombie apocalypse, because the Earth necessarily doesn't change, right? It's just now you got humans that you gotta fight to survive. You could still make food. There's still technology. There's still power potentially. There's still people maybe surviving that and running those facilities or needs. But when it comes to actual nuclear fallout or severe climate change where everything's completely different from what we're used to, like you said, sinkholes, random volcanoes, eruptions, ramping up hurricanes or tornadoes, messing with the fault lines and causing random earthquakes. All that is so unexpected and you can't plan for it, that you're always on your heels in that sense of natural hiccups, while you're still trying to figure out how the hell are we going to put food on the plate or drink some water that isn't contaminated, or stumble across an area that is completely engulfed in radiation. We have no clue, because who the hell has a Geiger counter in their back pocket? So it's just
what?
A
Geiger counter?
Geiger counter, the thing that detects radiation.
I'm sure you told me before that's what that is called. I don't think I will ever remember that, but that's kind of a funny name.
Probably named after the guy who invented it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it to me, the worst apocalypse would be something that turns the entire world on its head and continuously keeps you not ready. You're like, every second you're facing a new challenge because X.
So question. So where does this rate? One thing you didn't really mention is a viral outbreak. So let's think this was written before COVID, but let's just use COVID as an example because it was very similar. So let's say there's a virus outbreak. Let's just say 80% of the human population is decimated. They're gone. Everybody is genetically altered because it is a genetically altered virus that essentially swoops up and takes everybody. So people who survive either go crazy, they can't physically withstand like the genetic changes that are happening in their body, so they go crazy, or they are quote unquote normal, but they have different capabilities. And then you think about it, there's kind of two different ways you go with that. Like you either use your powers for good or you use your powers for bad. So in the new world, 80% of the world of humans are gone. The 20% that are left are either crazy or they have superpowers, we'll just call it. And then out of the people with superpowers, some of them are good and some of them are bad. And you can do anything from reading people's minds to having telepathy to, in this world, come up with whatever you want, How do you feel about that type of apocalypse?
I think that'd be pretty cool to try and live through. If I were to be one of if we're going down simple straight math, 80% of the population's dead, 20% survive. Half of the 20%, being 10%, survive with either good or bad intentions with their powers. Even if I'm part of that 5%, good or bad, it would still be interesting to see how that world would play out, because you're still essentially dealing with people and not a lot of climate stuff, if that makes sense.
So you prefer the social aspect over the climate stuff?
I think it's easier for me to deal with,
I
assuming
can see that.
randomly putting myself in that position. I think it's easier to deal with people because even though I don't know who I'm talking to is good or bad or crazy,
Or you
I,
might, because maybe you can read minds. So maybe you do know who's good, bad, and crazy.
that could be my power as well. But I'd rather welcome that challenge than trying to deal with the unknown of Mother Nature.
Yeah. No, I understand. And if we're going to throw all of it into, the pot and pick one, I would probably pick that too. What I wouldn't pick is trying to live in a blizzard. Everything after that is
You can't have your cake and eat it too. So if I had to be dropped into one of the two, super generic zombie apocalypse or the darkest winter, I think that I would select, just for myself, survivability probability. That's a thing. I would choose the zombie apocalypse because you got, essentially one bad target, zombies, and then you're going to have your one-offs where there's bad people, good people, right? What would be the more fun of the two is the darkest winter. I think that would be more enjoyable to try and traverse through that.
No, that's fair. Okay, so now that you kind of know about the Savage North Chronicles, which is the series that the Darkest Winter is in, and Midnight Sun, and Unbroken, now that you know more about that and you know they have superpowers, and it could be, I'll give you a list of a few, but it could be, at this point you can just pick anything, but there's like firepower, there's telekinesis, there's telepathy, there's animal telepathy, there's like telepathy between people, there is elemental manipulation, so like if you think about water, that sort of thing, energy, like heightened senses, so being extra strong, being extra fast, hearing really well. There's a lot of things. So wherever your mind wanders, I know you're a big X-Men fan, so you probably already know what you would pick, but if you survived, what would your superpower be?
I think realistically, if I'm trying to survive myself, it would be something along the lines of being able to either read minds, hear thoughts. I don't necessarily want to control people. I'd rather just know what their intentions are.
That's interesting.
I mean, because the whole shtick is surviving, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is far more powerful than being fast or being strong or being able to manipulate water or things, because it's a survival point. And knowing clearly crazy people, but then there's people that have powers, but you don't know if they're good or bad. Knowing their intentions without them essentially knowing that is unmeasurable.
Does it change your mind to know that some people have the ability to null other people's abilities, to like stop them or amplify them?
I think it still doesn't change my selection. The population is so small. Coming across someone that has that ability, you'll be able to pick them out, Where I'm getting at is I think that with the ability that I have, I would essentially be able to lead some kind of pack, whether I'm good or bad, to read people and know where they're coming from and assemble essentially a team of people that have other powers that I do not.
That you trust, and
that I trust, and collectively, we're a group that rely on each other. And if we come across someone that has that ability, then I would sense it, right? It would be obvious.
So I really like where you're going with this, and I'm just jumping in because, so you obviously are very familiar with the Ending series, which is the first series that I ever wrote. I co-wrote it with Lindsey Sparks, who was Lindsey Fairley at the time. It is the book or the entire series is what got us doing this. And that is how this whole Ending world started, is with that series, with the virus and the abilities and all that. And Danny, which is the character that Lindsey wrote, the other Lindsey, was Danny, and she had animal telepathy. And everybody loved that. And I still think it's really cool, obviously. Like, I wish I could talk to animals. That'd be great. I could actually have a conversation with our damn cats. But
that's called Beastmaster.
Yeah, right? Oh. But Zoe, her ability was, she was an empath. So she could essentially see people's memories and like know their auras and that sort of thing, because she could just like pick up on stuff. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's similar to what you're saying, because there's obviously different degrees, right, of what you can do. It's all kind of more in a family of like an ability. But the issue she had for the first however many books in the series was being able to turn it on and off. So you don't always want to know what people are feeling and thinking. And so, right. So there's caveats to all of these little things. Like, what toll does it take on you when you can't turn off being around somebody and knowing what they're thinking and or seeing their memories or their thoughts? And do you have to be touching them, or can you just be around them and it happens? So it's really, really fascinating that you picked that. And it's like that with all the abilities, right? There's all these, again, there's this spectrum of like, where do you fall? But there's a gazillion, it's just like genetics. It's just however it manifests itself in your
right. And you boil it down to basics. We're still human, right? So you have some abilities, but it would make sense that because you have the ability to be fast, you can't run at the speed of light indefinitely. But yeah, no, it makes sense. Like with strength, all right, you can pick up the Empire State Building, but then you got to rest for 2 months because you blew yourself out, type of thing. Like you have like a power bar, I guess, and it would make sense that, I mean, if I were able to fine tune what I wanted is just to be able to hear people's thoughts without contact, without anything, I would just hear their thoughts
and turn it on and off whenever you want.
No, let's say it's if my eyes lock on that person, I'm not going to limit myself to eye contact or whatever. Just if my eyes lock on that person, I'm hearing their thoughts. I'm able to block out everything else or whatever, and I'm honing in on this person. But it would make sense that all these new powers, abilities come rushing in, or it could be gradual, vice versa. But it's the same thing, like you're saying, that everything is new and I can't control it. So I'm getting flooded with everyone's thoughts. And I think through progression, practice, anything, you got to work on that ability, work on that muscle to be able to control it.
I love talking to you about this. This is a really fun conversation for me because you haven't read any of these books. So it's just fun to be able to talk about it. And because, we're borderline preppers, and we try and do what we can to be prepared for if something happens. We did our CERT certification for community emergency response. Like we try and be somewhat in the know and somewhat prepared. But there's also only so much you can prepare for. There's so many different things that could happen. And yeah, I don't know. I thought this would be really fun. I've had this conversation with my readers before. They always ask me, first of all, they ask me, what would be your ability if you had an ability? Because it's funny, because some people, I get these emails or these comments on social media like, COVID is, at least, in your books, it's like the same thing, but at least we come out with a, like a special ability or a superpower, at least there's something we get at the end of it. So they would ask me, what would your superpower be? Because I've written so many firepower. Elle has it in The Darkest Winter. Spoiler alert, everybody. And she's like me. She hates the cold. She never has to worry about the cold anymore because she's always running hot. She can protect anybody she needs to. She can start a fire. Fire is key in so many different things that could help her in survival. And it's just fucking badass. So nobody wants to screw with her. So in general, that's what I always go to.
Question. Where would it come out of for you? Are you projecting it, or
No, it's not like fireballs. It just becomes her. So it would be like her hand, like flames coming out of her hand, or Phoenix, essentially, when she's really angry or really mama bearing, it's like becomes a flame, So it's
but you, not her.
It's just, I want it to come wherever I want it to come from. I don't know.
Okay, so
I just want to be able to control it and just do whatever I want.
Because it could come out of your mouth like a dragon. You could shoot.
I see what you're saying.
Like fire lasers out of eyeballs.
Oh, like Cyclops? No. I guess that's not fire. That's a laser.
You could use your index finger, pinky finger, thumb.
I could go like this.
Be like, fire comes out.
Oh, that's a good question. I never really thought about. No, it's more just like, it's just in me. So wherever I want to let it loose, it just comes.
So you're essentially a fireball encapsulated in human flesh.
I guess, yeah. In fact, through a lot of the book, again, lots of spoilers, guys, but it's been out for a while, so sorry. She actually wears, it does, obviously, what's it going to do if flames wanted to come out, but she actually, before she realizes what's actually wrong with her, she wears gloves. Huh?
Or right with her?
Or right with her. because they don't, in the first book, they don't know what the hell's happening to them. This is, they don't know it's genetically altered virus. They just think everyone died. There's weird things happening to them. They're freaking out. They think there's something wrong with them. They think they're going crazy like everybody else they see who survived. So,
she's like, oh my God, what the hell's wrong with me? I farted and a fireball came out.
Yeah, I wrote that scene. Yeah, I did. No, I didn't.
I bet you did.
I did not. Dennis would.
I would.
Oh my God. All right, we're not going to talk about these books anymore. I will say this though. Readers also ask me a lot because I write so much post-apocalyptic and survival stuff, if I think I would survive and or if I'm a prepper. And so I will just take this opportunity to say, will I survive? I don't know. Have we set ourselves up to survive in most situations? Yes. Would I have a higher capability of surviving if Dennis is with me? Hands down. Like, we are prepared for things. Like, we've gone out of our way to have extra fuel and ways to purify our water and bug out bags. Our fucking animals have bug out bags. We have food. We have all the things we need. I think in general, we are good to go for most things. However, again, if we go back to if there's a nuclear fallout, we're not prepared for that. It might just kill me now, Honestly, I go to Fallout and I'm like, I don't want to have my nose rotted off. And I don't want to live through that. I'd rather just die.
Yeah, no. And like you said, I think we're light preppers, I guess. We dipped our big toe. We're prepared for a small natural disaster or something that would affect our day-to-day basis for a couple of weeks at the house. If it was full-blown apocalypse, nuclear fallout, we're screwed.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. I make it very clear. We can survive in our house for sure. We've done a lot of things to be prepared for that. If it happens and we're out in the world, unless there's a way to get home, I don't know. Probably not. So it just depends. And spoiler alert, I actually don't really read post-apocalyptic things. I only write them. I write them. I watch them all the time, but I don't read post-apocalyptic books. I read dystopian, but I prefer historical fiction, historical fantasy, and romance. So, hey, sorry, everybody. I don't really read post-apoc books.
Nor do I.
No, yeah.
No, nor do I.
Hey, surprise.
Yeah,
surprise.
Spoiler, guys.
Thank you for indulging me. It was so warm today, and I thought about you when you were driving home in the heat on your motorcycle, knowing it was the hottest day that you have ridden home and all the layers you had on. And then it got me thinking it would be a fun conversation if ... So let's do a quick what we're grateful for, and we will sign off for this episode. Dennis is grateful for his fan.
Yeah, at this point, I'm staring right at it. I got a fan above me, and I got a fan next to me. We do have AC in the house, but I never run it because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's not really why. The reason is because I don't like to pay the high PG&E bill. So,
and let's be clear. I think the reason why sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't is because we never use it. So it's like, what? I'm turned on. I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, and it would really be for me. Unbearable times, yeah, we turn it on, but that's got to be like a solid week of triple digits, which is pretty rare. Usually it's off because we can.
And I don't really need it, so I'd rather kind of be miserable and hot than turn it on because I don't like the air conditioning. Really screws with my allergies that I already have major issues with, which, again, if you watch the behind-the-scenes videos of us when we're recording and you see me itching my eyes or my eyes watering or my face red or I'm itching my nose, it's because I already have horrible allergies. The last thing I need is stale, cold refrigerator air just like hitting me in the face. So anyways, I'm all about fans and running around in a tank top and britches for all I care. That's my grandma's term. I actually don't know if britches are underwear or if they're shorts or pants, but I'm going to say shorts in this instance. That's what Nana would used to say. Britches. They could be underwear. I don't know. This is getting awkward.
I think it's underwear, but
yeah.
Go on.
Anyways, I will say it is very stuffy in my office right now. So I will say I'm also really grateful for my little tiny Dyson heater / cold fan that I can switch on and off during the seasons, depending on if it's cold or warm. Okay, so until next time, everybody, thanks for listening to us. I would be very interested to see what other people's idea of the worst apocalypse ever would be. Zombies, nuclear fallout, viral outbreak, etc. So if you decide you want to comment, especially if you see the behind the scene clips, feel free. We'd love to know. And we will see you guys next time.
Mahalo.
Bye. Greetings, listeners. It's Linz, just popping on to let you know that moving forward, the Grumpily Ever After podcast will be airing every 2 weeks instead of weekly due to our schedules. We appreciate your patience. We appreciate your support. We will see you on the next episode. Happy listening adventures. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Grumpily Ever After. Whether you're here for the book talk or the banter, we appreciate you. If you enjoyed our brand of chaos, don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more book chats and married mayhem. Stay grumpy, stay bookish, and we'll catch you next time.